Good evening. Welcome everybody to this week's Zen and Zazen class. For some reason I can't get my smartphone to work as a camera, but so I have to get used to look at my laptop again. Today I want to talk about the precious mirror Samadhi, but before that, as always, let's sit together for half an hour. Okay, thank you for joining. Today I would like to return to the precious mirror Samadhi, or Hokyo Zammai as it's called in Japanese. Let me share the screen with you. So this is on the far left side you have the Chinese text and then an English translation. Let me read the text once more, right from the start. The Dharma of thusness, or I would say this thing, this thing, but the Dharma of thusness is another possible translation. The Dharma of thusness is intimately transmitted by Buddhas and ancestors. And one example is the Chinese Zen master Rinzai, or Lin Chi in Chinese. He would transmit it with a punch right to the face. But of course, there are lots of different ways of manifesting that Dharma of thusness. Now you have it. Preserve it well. A silver bowl filled with snow. A heron hidden in the moon. Taken as similar, they are not the same, not distinguished. Their places are known. And I think last time we got to this point. A silver bowl filled with snow, a heron hidden in the moon. So two things that are almost indistinguishable, almost inseparable, but still they are not the same. One example for that, and I've already talked about this example, would be the now and December 2nd of the year 2024. They are the same. If you ask me, what is now? What day is today? Today is December 2nd. So now is December 2nd, 2024. They are the same. But tomorrow, now will still be now, but it won't be December 2nd anymore. Tomorrow will be December 3rd. So in a way, the now is hiding on the calendar on this day, in the December 2nd, like a heron is hiding in the moon. But let me continue from here. The meaning does not reside in the words, but a pivotal moment brings it forth. If you would read these 8 Chinese characters, the Japanese way it would be kokoro koto ni arazareba, which means basically what the English says here. You can't find the meaning in the words. One example that's often given, even if you say fire, you don't burn your mouth. If you're very thirsty and somebody says water, it won't quench your thirst. You're looking for this thing that you can drink. You're not looking for the word water. So in a way, it's clear. And also the Buddha Dharma that can be expressed in words is not this thing. It's not this. It's not the punch in the face that Rinzai would give you. A pivotal moment, as I'm not an English native speaker, I'm not 100% sure what is meant here. I never use this word pivotal, I don't hear it so much. In Japanese, there's an expression TPO. Even Japanese use it like TPO. It depends on TPO. And TPO is for time, place, occasion. So basically what Japanese mean, and maybe, I don't know if you use it in English as well, it means it depends, case by case. And they say that the Buddha also, his teaching varied on the listeners. So the Buddha wouldn't always teach the same. It would depend on the level of the understanding of the listener. It would depend on the, well, time, place, and occasion. And I think that's what meant here. There's no universal manual for practice. There's no universal theory of the Dharma, but it manifests different depending on time, place, and occasion. Sometimes it will express itself, it will manifest in a verbal way. Sometimes, like Rinzai, it will express in a punch. Or in Zen, we say that at some point, the Buddha just held up a flower and he twisted the flower a little bit. And his disciple Mahakashapa smiled. That would also be a way where the Dharma of thusness, this thing, is manifested. And it can manifest in any way. And it will probably never be exactly the same. So at two different points of times, at two different places, between two different people, it will always manifest in a different way. That's how I read this. A pivotal moment brings it forth, or in Japanese, laiki mata omo muku. It's depending on the, well, occasion. This one here is the occasion. When the occasion comes, it will express itself. Move and you are trapped. Miss and you fall into doubt and vacillation. These two characters, probably they mean something like a pit hole. When you move, or when your mind moves, when you try to grasp something, you're also already fallen into a pit hole. Or, well, if you try to avoid it, you will stumble over your own feet. That, well, reminds me of a lot of koans. For example, I'm from the Soto school, but in the Rinzai school, you would work on koans, questions that your teacher gives you. And for example, well, one question would be, if you call this a bottle, it's wrong. If you say it's not a bottle, it's also wrong. How do you call it? And probably in most cases, the moment you hear the question, your mind is already moving. You already try to grasp it. Well, how should I call it? Either I call it a bottle, or I say it's not a bottle. What am I supposed to do? And you're trying to understand the meaning. But in that moment, you're already falling into a pitfall. Or another koan that I've been working a lot with last couple of years in Germany. I was kind of doing sessions together with a Rinzai master, and we used this koan. There's this bell here. Is the bell inside your mind, or is it outside your mind? And those of you who know something about Buddhist philosophy, they maybe know Yogacara is one school of philosophy, and this school teaches that the whole universe is inside our mind, also the bell. So maybe inside the mind is the true answer. But then, according to our common sense, of course, the bell is outside our mind. So we could say either way, or we could say neither nor, whatever. But of course, none of these are the answer to the koan. The moment your mind moves, you're already trapped. And I think this sentence or this verse here says something the same. The moment you try to, for example, understand this, when I say this is the Dharma of thusness, people are already trying to, well, understand it. What does muho mean with the fist? And the moment you try to understand it, you already missed the point. I don't know if it already arrived in Xuan's place. At the end of each year, I'm sending small calligraphies to all of my supporters. And this year, I drew a circle and I wrote in it, "Bite me." And As far as I know, I didn't know when I wrote it. In English, bite me has a very strong meaning, a negative meaning, almost like fuck off. Of course, I didn't mean it. I meant it in the literal way. Like when Zen masters paint this circle, often they are asked, what does the circle mean? Does it mean stand for the moon? Or maybe it's a rice cake? Or maybe it's a symbol of perfection? And at that point, you've already fallen into that trap. You're looking for the meaning. You don't see the thing anymore. So when I traveled to America with a famous Rinzai master 25 years or so, almost 30 years ago, that Zen master, his name was Kedo Fukushima, he often would do calligraphy, and when he did the circle, sometimes he wrote, see it, touch it, bite it. So rather than ask, what's the meaning? Have a close look, really get into contact with it, bite into it. But usually that's not what we do. We try to somehow understand it, get to the meaning. We move left and right when we don't understand, rather than really getting into contact with the matter, the issue at hand. Or Dogen Zenji says Genjo Koan, and the issue at hand is one possible translation of that. Move and you are trapped. Miss and you fall into doubt. So when you say this is a bottle, you miss it, and when you say it's not a bottle, you also miss it. So what is it? What is this? Turning away and touching are both wrong. Turning away and touching. Just a minute ago I said it's about seeing, touching, biting. So when the author here says touching, I think what he means is mental grasping. If you're really physically touching, you're actually very close to the matter here. Turning away and touching are both wrong. Calling it a bottle is wrong, calling it not a bottle is also wrong. Saying that the bell is in your mind is wrong, saying it's outside of your mind is also wrong. Where is the bell? Where's the bell? Where's the bottle? For it is like a massive fire. What does the fire stand for? It's like a massive fire. For example, Dogen uses the metaphor of fire when he, for example, he talks about body-mind, arousing of body-mind. When you really understand that life is impermanent, and not in the sense that all of us will someday die. I also will be probably dead in 30 years or so, maybe in 50 years. Not in that way, but I'm dying right now in this moment. There's no guarantee that I'll be alive tomorrow. I could have died yesterday, actually. It's a miracle that I'm here today. If you understand that, that means to arouse body-mind. And Dogen says, when you arouse body-mind, it's like your head is on fire. You practice as if your head is on fire. You have to do something about it now. You can't wait until tomorrow. You can't wait until the firefighters will arrive. You have no time to pick up the phone. You have to do something about your problem. Another possible meaning of fire is you need fire. We need fire today to survive. Or today we have electricity. We don't need fire anymore. But at the time when this text was written, fire was like what electricity was for us today. From morning to night you needed fire to keep you warm, to light a candle, to cook, to light, to heat water for the bath or to take a shower. You always needed fire. Fire was essential for living. But fire was also very dangerous. So it's the same about the Dharma of thusness. This is essential. It's the essence of your life, but make no mistake. Otherwise, it might kill you. If you try to grasp it intellectually, you miss the whole point of it. So I think that's maybe what the text here means with fire. It's your life, but one false approach, one false step, and this thing will kill you. Just to portray it in literary form is to stain it with defilements. So using words to speak about it will only get us further and further away from the truth. But then, of course, the question is, well, what did the author of this text think? They are using very colorful words. They're using beautiful metaphors. Aren't they also staining the truth, staining it with defilement? And I think the answer is, well, there's no other way. It's not that words in itself are bad. It's just that when you confuse the words with the content, if you don't understand that the words are just something that, how do you say, spring out of TPO, time, place, and occasion. And they're only, how do you say, skillful means trying to get you there, just like Rinzai's fist. We should never be attached to, for example, beating in Rinzai, and we need to beat our students. No. At the time of Rinzai, that was one way of communicating. Today, using words is another way of communicating. It's just that you think it's the beauty of the words that's important. That's defilement of the Dharma. So what's important about this text is not the beauty of the metaphor, the heron hiding in the moon or snow falling on the silver plate. It's not about the beauty of the words. Okay, I talked quite a lot today. Sorry for that. Shuen-san, how shall we do it with the Japanese translation? No translation today again, or? Okay, so that would mean you're welcome to ask questions, to share anything that you would like to share right away. Any questions? Anything you would like to share? Okay, Julian.
As usual, I will start. My wife would be laughing at me. You always have to say something, she says. I was just going to say that Dogen image of brushing fire from the head is so vivid, and I always think of that. It's that when you're immersed in the moment. And I once attached 3 juggling torches to my head for a
Yeah,
live.
you can see when we see your hair. You burnt yourself.
Yeah, I did, and it really is like exactly the same thing. It's like that urgency of there is no conceptual thought, and that's the thing, isn't it? It cuts through it. So I just thought I'd throw the juggling torches in.
Great, yeah. Any other questions? Anything else that you would like to share or ask? It seems that now that we locked the Zoom room, there's more participants. Before it was easy to get in, but now that it's more difficult to get in, there's more people, which is nice, yeah. Kenza Sadi, is that the right way to pronounce your name?
Yeah, hi. Kenza is fine.
Kenza.
Yeah, I'm also the kind who always has to talk, so Julian shouldn't feel bad. Um, I was just thinking that the massive fire is just like the pivotal moment, like 2 lines above.
Yes.
You know, that idea of swift and, you know, that awakening, or that when you kind of get it, quote unquote. So I just thought it sort of echoed a little bit the line before.
Yes, yes. I think so, yes, yes. Mm. Is there anything else you would like to ask or share? If it's a Spanish name, you would say Javier. If it's French, it's different, I guess. What's your name? You're still mute. For some reason, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now it's good.
Perfect. Yeah, I am Spanish, so it is Javier.
Javier. Okay, nice to meet you.
Yeah, and nice to meet you. Yeah, thank you for the session. When you're saying that to try to grasp it,
Yes.
we're already getting trapped. How do we approach it then? Is it about observation? How do we be around it or try to approach the situation then?
Observation would be the first step. Like I said, see it, touch it, bite it. So observation is the first step, but when you observe it, you're still in the position of the observer. There's still a distance. When you touch it, you make contact. And biting it, or you could even go one step further and allow the thing, for example, the fire. Fire is something that's dangerous, and usually we try to escape it. But depending on how you use the metaphor, allow the fire to swallow you, burn in the fire, get absorbed in the fire. Or for example, during Zazen, often there's a certain amount of pain, and I'm asked, well, how can I be liberated from the pain? And my answer is allow the pain to swallow you up. So rather in this case, it's not that you bite the pain, but you allow the pain to bite you and it swallows you up. So when you observe, there's still a lot of distance, but you get so close that there's only enough space for this one reality, and it swallows you up in a way.
Thank you.
But well, observation is certainly the first step. Have a close look. What you see there, what do you actually see there? And kind of in English you would say hands-on approach. Actually get into touch with the thing and become one with it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, get soaked in the reality.
When you mentioned the word moving,
yes,
inside the text, it reminded me of the Unmovable Mind book I was reading, and I think lately I'm identifying with that concept. What you mean to be soaked in it is not to notice that I am in or out of it, and I feel that when my mind stops, that's when I fall in the trap.
Yeah, like moving in this case, for example, in the cane of pain. I'm in pain. How can I move out of it? How can I get rid of the pain? That's what the text calls moving. And the moment you say, I don't want to be in pain, you're already lost. You're already lost. You're already trapped. Rather than soak in the pain. Allow the reality of life to kind of wholly penetrate you. And usually we don't do that. We pick certain things. This is what I like. This is how it's supposed to be. But then a lot of other things that I don't want this. I don't want that. How can I avoid it? How can I escape that? And that's what the text here means with, well, moving. Move and you're already trapped. One step in the wrong direction and you fall over your feet.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything else that you would like to share? Please, Eleanor.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Nice to see you after a long time.
Yeah, thanks for having me tonight. It's nice to see everyone. I'm calling in from Melbourne, Australia. I kind of only have sort of a half-formed thought, but maybe you could help me flesh it out a bit. I've been thinking a lot about effort in practice and sitting, and some stuff that popped out at me from the reading was, you know, this sort of talking about the problem of like trying to move towards something or sort of pull away from it. And I sort of noticed that in my sitting practice as well, this sort of like, as soon as I try to do something, there's a sort of like a kind of effort that is sort of in the sort of balanced in the middle, and then there's a sort that sort of seems to be going too far in one direction or the other. Like it seems like as soon as I try to do something, there's this sort of separation that happens. And yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts about how that sort of relates to what we've been discussing.
I'm not quite sure what your question is. Like in the Antaiji tradition, probably emphasize very strong that you don't try to get somewhere with your Zen practice. You don't try to gain anything. Of course, you don't try to avoid anything either. So effortlessness is probably emphasized quite a lot. Practice is supposed to be effortless, or what in Chinese you would say wu wei, non-doing. Things do themselves by themselves. Even Zazen, it's not something that I do. I make an effort to do Zazen, but Zazen does Zazen. But then on the other hand, for example, right effort is one part of the Eightfold Path. So in Buddhism, we also hear about efforts. And for example, to participate in the life in Antaiji, but not only in Antaiji, everywhere in all of our daily lives, we need to make an effort. So I don't know if that's your question, but one question would be, well, what's the difference, or what's the connection between effortlessness and true effort, and how do I distinguish true effort from an effort that's going too much? Is that your question, or is it completely different?
Yeah, I didn't have a particular question, but that's good food for thought. I think I was just sort of noticing that there are like these sort of parallels between, you know, the way that it feels in my mind when I'm trying to grasp onto a concept, or I'm trying to sort of understand something and like grasp onto an idea, with the sort of the doing energy that can come into sitting practice as well, and daily life. So anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you for asking. I mean, I didn't offer any answer, I think, to your question. I was kind of trying to get my head around what you might have been asking, but if I can offer just a little bit. So often in those of us who practice Zen, either both beginners but also people who've been practicing for many years, we find ourselves in this spot where we know it's not about seeking something special. It's only about returning to the here and now. And at the end of the day, no effort is needed. But we also feel it takes a lot of effort to sustain this effortlessness. And we intellectually understand it's all about letting go. But how do you do this letting go when you want something, or, well, there is this feeling, but I need to make an effort, or you want to make an effort to a certain degree. And I would say kind of effortlessness, or what Japanese, not the Japanese, the Chinese word wu wei, non-doing. Non-doing, of course, doesn't literally mean that you don't do nothing. It doesn't mean to lie on the couch. Non-doing means that when you do the dishes, you allow the dishes to do the dishes. You don't make an effort to do the dishes. But actually, making an effort, I think, is not excluded from Wu Wei. When we hear Wu Wei, we think there's certain things that are Wu Wei. When Zazen does Zazen, that's Wu Wei, and other things that are not Wu Wei. But when you make an effort, when you fight, when you go to your limits, that can also be Wu Wei. It can also be an expression of that. So when you realize, actually, I'm making an effort, there's nothing wrong with that. Allow yourself, allow the Dharma, allow the Buddha way to manifest in this act of making an effort. So making no effort, practicing effortlessly, is not something that we somehow have to do. I need to be more effortless, so to speak. But rather, when you make an effort, you make that effort, and that's completely okay with that. Or, for example, letting go. How can I possibly let go? Forget about letting go. When you can't let go, you don't let go. When you cling, you completely cling. There's this koan of a guy hanging on a branch at a tree, and somebody asks him, what's the meaning of the Buddha Dharma? He needs to answer, but also, how can he possibly let go of the branch? And the answer, usually you don't give the answer to these koans, but the answer basically is you cling, you cling to the branch. And in this clinging to the branch, you also at the same time give the answer to what is the Buddha Dharma. In the moment you cling to the branch, you cling to the branch. Your whole life depends on it. So there are moments where you do your best to not fall off the tree. And that's also one example of making an effort. And to speak about being soaked in it or absorbed of it, being absorbed in this effort would be also a manifestation of this, an act of this. While saying, but I heard that Zen is about making no effort. Isn't that strange? That's what the text here calls moving. You're already in the trap. I know I need to make an effort, but also think I shouldn't be. I'm not supposed to make an effort. So what am I supposed to do? You're already in this trap between trying not to make an effort, but also having to make an effort. So in this case, I would just say make the effort, completely be absorbed in making an effort. Okay, I talked a lot. Sorry for that. We are already past 9 o'clock here in Japan. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Shuen-san, for hosting us here. Next week, so in Zen in Japan right now is the Rohatsu week. Here in Osaka, I don't do it, but in Antaiji, they're sitting until the morning of the 8th. Next week, 9th, is just after Rohatsu. I think if I remember right, it's when the second patriarch also arrived at the cave of Bodhidharma, and then on the morning of the 10th or so, he cut off his left arm, if I remember right. But that doesn't need to bother us. Anyway, I wish you a nice week. If you like, come back next week. Next week, I'm going to talk about this book, To You by Sawaki Roshi. And in 2 weeks, it's going to be the precious mirror Samadhi again. So, once more, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shuen-san. See you again. Have a nice week.
Thank you.